Hello there. Welcome to episode 8 of Bow and Blade, a podcast brought to you by medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
And I'm Kelly DeVries, professor of medieval history at Loyola University, Maryland.
Kelly, last episode we talked about the Battle of Crécy, which was fought on the fields of France in 1346. We actually did 2 episodes on it because we got long-winded. So today we're going to talk about the Battle of Nicopolis, which was fought quite a ways away in the former Ottoman Empire, a half century later in 1396. All kinds of fun. What are you drinking for this?
Yeah, this was a hard one. I had if I was in Istanbul, maybe a hot apple tea, but I think I was going to stick with the grape. I think I'm going to go with a wine from the region, the Balkans.
A Balkan wine?
Balkan wine.
A Balkan wine. I was going to drink some wild turkey.
Well, that's not a bad choice. Not a bad choice for this one.
There's a little joke for people who are geographically inclined.
Yeah.
Because this fight, this is the Ottomans versus an alliance of quote unquote Crusader armies. We'll have to talk about it. We'll have to unpack all that.
Let me just tell you who among them. There were I had all this down. They had a group of Hungarian, Wallachian, Transylvanian, Hospitaller, German, Burgundian, French, and English.
That's not bad.
No.
That's not bad.
Probably one of the biggest alliances of this period. Nobody, imagine having French and English and Burgundians all fighting on the same side. Let alone with all these Central European troops too.
Right, and then of course there's like little, Wallachia there, Transylvania is there. Like it's pretty wild. I think it's like there's Venetians there. I think
Venetians are probably there too.
Some Poles. It's everybody versus the Ottomans.
Yeah, Teutonic Knights come down.
A good time is had by all. I mean, on the Turkish side,
not on their side. No,
Ottomans had a great time.
Well, the alliance. I mean, we're going to talk about that because I put the blame of the loss of this battle at the alliance's feet. It may come out of here thinking, DeVries was wrong. He always said there was no stupidity in battle. There is stupidity in the planning of battles. There's no question. This one will take the cake, but most of it is pride. Other things along those lines that'll mess it up.
And they did have some, limitations on intelligence too that did screw up some of the action here. But it is,
and they didn't believe other intelligence,
right? There's also, you can ignore intelligence, and that'll screw you up. Nicopolis is a absolutely massive battle, massively important. Also massive in the accounts, though many of those are very flawed probably in their numbers, which we can talk about. But let's start with the real basics here, of how this happens, because these, as you said, these countries don't, and kingdoms, dukedoms, they don't normally work together. These are people who've been killing each other mostly, decide to get together and fight here together. So why is this happening, Kelly?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. First is the last crusade ended in 1291. The last of the Hospitallers and the Templars are cast out of Acre in 1291. Ever since that day, they've been wanting to go back. The calls for crusade have been out. The Pope calls it periodically. The King of France and the King of England will promise to go, and the Holy Roman Emperor will promise to go, and all these various Italian magnates and everything else. Of course, they don't, because they've got their own internal faults. They've got problems, and both with the fact that they are either unstable in the leadership of their country, or they're at war with each other, as the French and the Burgundians and the and the French and Burgundians are against the English at this point. This is before the Burgundians will pull away. But this is so they're hesitant to do this, and then we have an enemy change. I mean, that's probably even more significant. There'll be calls for crusades down into the 19th century, but the changing of the enemy is really striking, because in 1291, the Ottoman Turks are a small group of familial group in Anatolia. That's all they are. The enemy that had pushed the Crusaders out were Mamluks, and they had gone back to Egypt with holding on to the Middle East as well, but they had gone back to Egypt. So there's really a different set of enemies, because the Ottomans have grown since that day, since almost 1291. They fight at 1299 against the Byzantines for the first time, and then they fight and grow and continue to fight until they have pretty well, by the end of the 14th century, captured all of the Balkans, saved this area up around the Danube River, and they've also captured or have allied with the other Turkish tribes in Turkish peoples in Anatolia itself.
Yeah.
So the Ottomans are providing one enemy, the Mamluks are providing another enemy. So the calls to crusade get a little bit concerning, a little bit different. I mean, some will say, let's just go on a crusade, and others will say, we're going to try it against Egypt, and others will say, we're going to try it against the Ottomans.
Right. And this, the advance of the Mamluks as they're really crawling across the Balkan Peninsula.
Not Mamluks, the Ottomans.
The Ottomans, yes. At this point, this becomes now the frontier.
Yeah.
And is pushing further and further and further against quote unquote Christendom. And this perception of needing to do something about this encroaching threat, right? So Nicopolis, just to kind of orient people, is on the Danube. It's on the Danube River, which is basically on the border now, so this is in this area of it's right on the border between Bulgaria and Romania. So this is kind of like in that frontier space as the armies of the Ottomans are getting closer and closer to Hungary, closer and closer, and so this is perceived as a great threat, and the call goes out by is it Boniface? Am I remembering that correctly?
It is the emperor. I'm sorry, it is the Pope, but it's essentially been the Hungarians who've really pushed it. Yeah. They are in need of some assistance. They're Catholic, of course. The others, Transylvania, Wallachia, they're also on the border, what is modern Romania, and they're also in need of assistance. Although their Christianity is Orthodox, they still will come to fight. This is an all-out Christian attack. The only ones who don't, Byzantines are hiding behind walls of a very few cities that have not yet been captured, most notably Constantinople. Yeah. But this is the first, real call to the crusade that comes out of a pope that is responded to by a large number of Westerners, and it's surprising too, because there's been peace made in the 100 Years' War, and one of the reasons that they make this peace constantly, that it's made this peace that when 1380 Richard II on the throne, is the idea, let's go on a crusade. Yeah. So let's get together. This is what the Pope wants. Let's go on a crusade. It's in fact almost, we're going to fight someone else so we can have peace.
Yeah, I mean, there's long been this kind of question about how much of a lot of the crusades is that going on, right? Let's stop fighting each other and go pick on somebody else. Yeah, which is a Yeah, the crusading fervor is a big topic. Not
It
sure
is a big topic,
how much we
and
want to
it
get into that.
changes. I mean, if you went into I this call comes out. I mean, Richard II answer says, "Yeah, there's it even goes into some peace negotiations with France at this period of time, and while it looks like it's going to be the two kings that might lead these crusaders,
Right.
Charles V and in France, and Philip or Richard II in England." Then it kind of goes down and goes down until finally there's a large group of knights that are coming out of France. England really doesn't send that many. The Burgundians, though, take the lead,
Yeah.
and it's pretty much because the Duke of Burgundy is getting older. He couldn't go, so he sends his son John, who will later be known as John the Fearless, on his first campaign. John's young. We've talked about young Black Prince last week. John is not much older than the Black Prince when he fought in Crecy. John is about that same age and in charge, essentially in command.
At this point, he's Count of Nevers, but will be John the Fearless. He was born in 1371. This guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's still pretty young. Still pretty young when this is happening. And so yeah, they're all gathering. I mean, who really, Sigismund is king of Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of got the rank, right?
Well, he's got the rank, but
who's
the
really kind of
Westerners,
leading martially here?
right? I mean, Sigismund has the rank. He has the knowledge. He's fought against Ottoman Turks before. He knows the region. He's got an infantry army that is fairly strong, very experienced. And like you say, he should probably have the rank, but he's not. Nobody in the West is going to look at him with any authority whatsoever, which will come, as we'll see, become a very interesting facet of this battle, in that Sigismund is not listened to by a whole bunch of French and English and Burgundian knights who think they know better.
Yeah, yeah. And on the other side, you got Bayezid.
Yeah.
Bayezid the First. What's his nickname? The Thunderbolt is
He's
like
got
that?
a whole bunch of them, but the Thunderbolt, I think, is one of them. The interesting thing is that he's an incredibly strong sultan at this point, but he will come to a really, really bad end.
Yeah.
And so history has not looked very kindly on him.
He's in his
but
mid-30s at this point. He's doing great, and yeah, he's
doing
doing
great.
terrific.
I mean, he's continuing these. So he's continuing what his father and grandfather had done. He's making inroads into the Balkan region. He's even making a little bit of inroads down in the south. He's got Navy out patrolling things. In fact, he's responsible for a war that's coming up between the Venetians and the Byzantines. Is going to define quite a bit. So, there's a whole bunch of different things that Bayezid is important for as far as this is concerned. But, and spoiler alert, he's not going to make it past Tamerlane in 1402. And
that ends poorly.
It ends poorly. Yeah.
Poorly.
He's captured in 1402 and taken around. Tamerlane has as kind of a mascot. And finally, Bayezid, after a year, bangs his head open, kills himself by banging on the bars with his head. And can you imagine? I mean, crazy. Suicide to a Muslim would have been the worst thing that could have happened. And here's this guy doing it in order to stop the humiliation of being captured. So history doesn't treat him as well.
Yeah.
If we had just Nicopolis, I think history would look at him and say, here's the conqueror. It's not him.
Yeah, the Battle of Ankara, where he gets captured, is actually a fascinating battle too. We might have to do that at some point.
We will.
But that's all to come. All that's to come. At this point, Bayezid he's rocking and rolling. He's feeling good, and that's partly why everybody's so threatened by this, and willing to try and fight back against this. So how is it that everybody comes together at Nicopolis of all places?
Well, they all go towards Buda to meet. All the western and the north. So anybody who's going to fight in this heads towards Buda. That's the goal. Excuse me. That's the goal, and it's you can understand this is a large travel from Western Europe,
Yeah.
from England. It takes could 2 months to get there. And then once they get there, they meet with Sigismund, and Sigismund says, "Okay, let's go. Let's go take on Nicopolis, because if we hold Nicopolis, then we can hold the Danube." That's his idea. I mean, one of the things he doesn't want to happen is for Bayezid to now start a riverine move up along the Danube towards Buda. There's still Belgrade, a few other places that are in the way, but Nicopolis seems the place to go. And he figures they could go besiege the city, and that's that.
So Nicopolis is just kind of for clarity here. I mean, this is a pretty substantial fortification on the Danube. There's on the south side of the Danube here. There's a kind of nice little rise, really, really close to the river. And at this point, you've got a castle there. And this also happens to be right on one of the main trade routes, crosses the Danube here. So it's a really key strategic location to hold or to take, like depending on which side you're on, to try and control the route up the Danube.
And I mean, we're in a dispute. Are these guys looking for a battle, or are they looking? I mean, I think Sigismund is looking to control more, and maybe then just to have the Crusaders there taking these big spots, not really anticipating there'd be a battle. But there's no question whatsoever these French and Burgundian knights under John the Fearless, they want a battle. They think they are invincible, and they want a battle. The problem is nobody really knows where Bayezid is. Sigismund knows he's somewhere in the Balkan region, but he isn't quite certain, and it isn't certain that he will give a battle. I mean, Bayezid faces a large army. He's not faced anything very large at this point. Is he maybe going to go retreat back to his to Asia Minor, to where his strength is? Is it possible that the Balkans then could be cleared easily? I think in the mind of Sigismund, this would be the result he'd look for, and perhaps anticipate. He'd faced him in large battles, had not been prevalent, but they hadn't gone well for those fighting the Ottomans. It had only been a little bit before the Kosovo had been fought, and it was not successful.
And Sigismund, at least in many of our reports, seems to be kind of the conservative mind here. He wants to be very cautious. He wants to try and be in a position where the march has to happen towards the crusading forces as opposed to marching out to try and do things. But it keeps getting overrun by everybody else, as you said, who wants to, like, let's do it. Let's get in there. Let's go get them.
It is interesting because I got involved in this battle very first time I even thought about riding on Nicopolis or even thinking about Nicopolis, is that I visited Buda. And I, as a young scholar, was at a conference on the history of technology, and I went up to the castle of Buda, and I've seen all these changes being made, some very, very interesting changes to the fortifications. And guides are pointing out these are built by Sigismund. And I thought, well, geez, why did Sigismund have, what's building this? And then I recognize, of course, the Ottomans are there. They're, he really thinks they're going to come. Now, these fortification changes don't start until after Nicopolis, but it's in his mind that Hungary is the last bastion of Catholicism on that side of Europe. And otherwise, and the Ottomans are coming in, they're taking country after country after country. And now he's got a chance to fight back with the addition of these Crusaders.
A bit like Rhodes in a sense, that sort of mentality.
Yeah,
draw the line here and let's start building up.
Yeah, and the one difference with him and Rhodes had a garrison that was but they didn't have any allies per se. I mean, in this case, Sigismund knows he can't take the Ottomans on his own. That was pretty wise. But all of a sudden, on his doorstep comes a large crusading force from the west, from Central Europe, and they're pretty doggone impressive. French, I mean, Marshal Boucicaut is there. He's kind of second in command. There's a whole bunch of French noblemen, really high noblemen, let alone John the Fearless, who were there. And they would have come in and the updated, the best armor money could buy at that point in time. And they would have had war horses that were extraordinary. I mean, this is an experienced group that comes out of the West. So now Sigismund thinks, oh, good. Look what I've got now. Let's go off and get some of this back. So they make their way to Nicopolis and start to besiege it.
Yeah. And we won't go into all the details of the campaign. It is interesting. They have to cross the Danube at what's called the Iron Gates. That's pretty cool. But they get to the south side and march up and start besieging Nicopolis. How does that siege go? Is it great? Is it awesome?
Well, no, it's kind of half-hearted more than anything. And this probably comes down to the difference between what Sigismund is planning and what the Crusaders are planning. The Crusaders don't travel all that way to besiege a small town. I mean, if they know that they're going to Jerusalem, like the First Crusade, or they know they're going off to to attack Constantinople or attack one of the bigger areas, Constantinople not in Ottoman hands, but one of the bigger Ottoman towns, then they would have been fine probably besieging it. But they're in a little fortification that has some local importance, and they want to fight. And the garrison, the Ottoman garrison that's in Nicopolis, say, we're not coming out. We got food. There's lots of water in that river. We're not going to suffer for a while. And they know that Bayezid will probably come to them. I mean, it's always a guess. A siege commander has got to listen to a besieged commander has got to listen and guess. Am I going to be able to hold out before until Bayezid comes in? And that's what he's guessing. Now, he probably has more knowledge about where Bayezid and the army is at this time. And he may even have had some messages saying, it's hard to hide a whole Western Crusade force. So I think he knows it's coming. He sends off to Bayezid and says, it looks like they're going to stay here. And so it's pretty half-hearted. The Hungarians want it. There's no question. The Hungarians besiege it. They blockade it with a whole bunch of riverine boats and all this other stuff. So they're interested in doing so. But I guess the best way of saying the Western forces, they're bored. Okay, they're bored. What the hell? Nobody enjoys a siege. Nobody enjoys a siege.
Yeah, sieges are not fun. I mean, for anybody, but yeah, this is not what these guys came to do. Meanwhile, coming upon them is Bayezid with a really big army. A really big army. Now, this is one of these problems that we constantly run into, which is like, well, how big were the armies? Because after the defeat, spoiler alert, the Western sources start giving some really big numbers for the Sultan's force, and you could kind of understand why, right? They want to be like, it wasn't even close, we were outnumbered bazillion to one. Johann Schiltberger in 1427 says there were 200,000 Turks
now
in the army.
We got to talk about Johann for a moment. He's one of the best sources we have because he was there. He's a German teenager who is fighting among the forces that come down out of Central Europe, and he's so young, in fact, he'll be spared, and then later on in life writes this amazing account,
It's
which
incredible.
begins at Nicopolis and goes through. But I always think of, he actually also is at Ankara, and he's taken by Tamerlane and used. I mean, he visits everybody around there. You're a middle teenage kid, and this whole army must. I don't blame him. That whole army must have seemed like 200,000.
It must have seemed like it, but 200,000 men.
At the end of
no,
yeah,
it was not 200,000 men. It was not. And what's funny, of course, is the flip side, right? So a generation later, we've also got these accounts from the other side, and they're saying the Crusaders were 150,000 Crusaders that we destroyed. It's one of these numbers are funny this way, because you're like, well, it says this in the text. Oh yeah, but who and why are they saying that?
Yeah.
Where are they getting that number from? There were not 150,000 Crusaders there. That's not what happened.
No. But I mean, it wouldn't matter what the Crusaders anyway, because they were disunified at the very beginning. You have the Western Crusaders that are titularly under the command of John the Fearless. Then you have these disparate groups of Central Europeans, and they're under their own local command. And then you've got Sigismund, who thinks he should be in command of the whole thing. And again, spoiler alert, I suppose, he should have been.
He should have been.
He
knew more about facing this than anybody did. But
yeah, and so he brings them all together. I mean, Bayezid comes on the field. He sees the armies up around there. They have to come down off the siege to face him in the battlefield. But this is what the Allied knights, these knights in shining armor, that's literally what they were. That this is exactly what they want. So they bring these commanders together, and they have a battlefield discussion, shall we say. They have a planning session.
They make a plan.
And this is pretty much like every planning session I've ever attended as department chair. Everybody gets their say. They don't say anything.
Are you throwing administrations under the bus?
I'm throwing administrations under the bus. Sigismund tells them, okay, I fought these guys.
Yeah.
These guys have a way of fighting that is meant to tempt the big cavalries in. So, because they will put their fodder, essentially these militia troops and untrained troops, poorly armed, poorly armored, they put them out front. And they're going to take the brunt of any attack. So you run your cavalry in, they're going to take the brunt of that. They're going to stop it. And right behind them are the Janissaries.
Yeah.
And they're going to be on you with no momentum coming. And they are very good. These guys are very experienced and so forth. This is a little bit before Janissaries are being Christian kids that were taken. And I mean, these are really professional troops at this period of time, the elite troops of Islam. The Janissaries later are going to be the elite troops of Islam as well. But these are really good. And so he says, you don't want to lose your momentum, because they're gonna kill you. They're gonna pull you off your horse. They're gonna do all this other stuff.
And behind the Janissaries
is cavalry of
cavalry.
Yeah, is the cavalry. So and so he pleads with me. He says, "Look, this should be my plan. This will be my plan. I'm gonna send it in. Send my infantry in, and they will take out this group of fodder in the front. Inexperienced, they'll probably rush from the field. So they will go down and take it out. And then you can use the big knights here behind them, and have them rush in full charge into the Janissaries, who are fighting on foot. And so chances are that's when you can break through and maybe even get the Janissaries to rout. And if not, get the Janissaries to rout, at least you'll be in an advantage. And you can go through the Janissaries and take on the cavalry, and they're not as strong as you are. I mean, if you're thinking about this in pure military terms, the French and Burgundians are heavy cavalry. The Ottomans are still pretty light cavalry at that point, and they're not going to be able to take on an armored soldier from the 100 Years' War. It's been fighting in the 100 Years' War. That's that's Sigismund's plan.
Yeah, and this harkens back to something we talked about in our Q&A in episode 5. And reminder, we got another Q&A coming up in episode 10. So just 2 episodes left to get your questions in, folks, for what you want to hear. But we talked about this question of mounted charging into infantry. And we talked about that might surprise people, that kind of doesn't, you tend to get bogged down if that happens.
Yeah.
And so Sigismund very smartly here, look, don't bog down the cavalry. Let the infantry go in, infantry against infantry, knock these guys out, and now your cavalry can go in and strike. So yeah, really smart, very smart. Well done, Sigismund. Well done.
His thought is not only they'll sweep the first group out of the field, but they won't engage the Janissaries. They will then go against the wings, because the Ottomans have got 2 wings. What in fact Froissart calls a hearse. Just to bring back last week, he calls it a hearse, and there's no English longbowmen in it. No bowmen we know of at all. I mean, it's just, but they're kind of the medium infantry. They're not as experienced. They're not as lead as the Janissaries. They're better than the fodder that are out in front. So he figures then the infantry can hit those levels, and that then will fold in the wings on this central group with the cavalry.
With the cavalry coming behind them. I mean, it's almost like a parting of the Red Sea. They're going to, the Sigismund will come in, push these guys aside, hit the wings, and then coming right behind them in a line. Here comes the cavalry. It's such a good idea.
It is. I mean, and he knows this is because he's faced these guys before. He's got intelligence about what they're going to fight, how they're going to fight, and now he's got manpower that can really win this battle, even against superior numbers.
And so nobody listens to him.
No. Are you kidding me?
Why don't they listen to him?
Anybody? Well, we said the same thing back in when we talked about 1066 about Hastings. Why is it that the infantry aren't allowed to go in and do their? Why is it that they have to pull out? I mean, we're going to do Courtrai in a couple of weeks. We get to Courtrai, it's the same thing. Knights don't want to stay put. They think they are the best. Yeah. And, to a certain extent they are. But Bayezid knows that they can get bogged down. He's seen it too. So, and he fought a few knights at the Battle of Kosovo. So he knows that they're going to make these stupid charges. And once the momentum is gone, Knight is very good, but he's going to get overwhelmed by the numbers that could pull him down, especially the Janissaries. And one of the things about Knight, now we're still a little bit early before the whole thing for this unified suit of armor. They are wearing metal all over, metal plates all over, but it's still, there's gaps in there. And, the idea is get a Knight off his horse and either take him over him as a prisoner and get him on the side, or find a spot you can just kill him. Yeah. Everybody has a dagger. That's we forget that, but dagger. Everybody has a dagger, and what's the dagger for? You get a Knight on the ground, and
those joints.
You can find joints. It. Yep, into the armpit, into the heart.
Or the groin.
Into the carotid artery up in the neck, and into the femoral artery in the groin. Yep. I mean, everybody knew it. That's it. Yep. That's how you killed the Knight.
We don't usually see that in the movies.
No, we don't usually see that. But in fact,
we're the best. We're
the best. Yeah. In fact, it was funny because I had to do that, or I was consulting, those I was consulting the knight versus the pirate in that stupid
Yeah,
show,
Deadliest Warrior stuff.
Deadliest Warriors. Yeah, and I said this. They said, "Well, how do knights kill on a battlefield?" I said, "Well, this is what they do. It's dagger and this, that, and the other." And they said, "We can't show that on TV." They were looking to show a beheading, which was a strange thing.
Oh, that was okay, but all right.
That was okay. And I said, "Well, that just doesn't happen."
Yeah,
but they will have this happen.
I am stunned that you can't do that that you can't behead somebody with a single stroke. I have seen that in so many movies, Kelly. You just destroyed all my belief systems.
It was those Japanese katana swords that came.
Oh yeah, play. Yeah, they go right through. Go through metal like butter.
Yes,
like butter. So yeah, Sigismund's got his good plan. Everybody ignores him. Shut up, Sigismund.
They do. In fact, it's not just everybody ignores him. They really just mock him. It is, according to what we've got several sources from that side, contemporary sources, the book of John Marshall Boucicault, that's written. We've got accounts from others that have got it said. John Froissart, he's still alive. This is one of the last battles he'll be able to cover. He hears the stories of individuals coming back, and it's mocking him. I mean, we're knights. Are we going to listen to this guy? First of all, he's just the Hungarian king. He's not important. We can do it. We're knights. We'll just go right over him. And they did whatever they could. In fact, they even came up with an alternative plan where they rode in. Sigismund waits with his infantry on the hill behind them, and then they ride in, and of course the battle's gone over, and so then Sigismund can come up and congratulate them for winning. They think that this is going right through.
Unfortunately for them, Sigismund was absolutely right about what the hell's going to happen here.
Yep.
And so when these knights go charging in, they get bogged down. There's some question about whether or not there were traps on the field.
I mean,
pits and things.
Yeah, I don't think there was, because the knights wouldn't have wanted to disrupt their charges, and Bayezid hadn't gotten there early enough to set them up himself. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it would have been hard to cross the field. They're not on a road at this point, so they're crossing fields that would have been tilled, and that's going to disrupt charges anyway. But the French. The Hungarians probably wanted to put traps in the field. Anything
sounds like a Sigismund idea there, yeah.
Yeah, go back and eat your schnitzel. We're going to take care of this.
And they get totally bogged down when they run into this big mass of and Kelly describes them as fodder, and that's probably about how Bayezid was kind of thinking about this.
Oh yeah, he was thinking about it. Yeah,
get these guys bogged down, and then the Janissaries just roll in.
Well, in fact, let's take a step back, because this is what Froissart says that the French told Sigismund at this.
Oh, you got it there.
I got it. It could, because you need this. This is
good, man.
Yes. The King of Hungary wishes to gain all the honor of the day. He has given us the vanguard, and now he wishes to take it away, that he may have the first blow. Let those who will believe what he sends to us. But for my part, I never will. In the name of God and St. George, you shall see me this day prove myself to be a great knight. This was Philip of Artois, who was the general in charge of the French forces. He was ready to head in. And it was just like, the mockery towards the Hungarian. And then he turns around and says, okay, charge. Hungarians are up on the hill. They hit those fodder, and the fodder did exactly what Sigismund said. They ran away or get all tangled with the horses, and then the Janissaries come up and say,
"Here we go." I mean, it's this weird kind of parallel to what we were talking about, happening at Crécy, where the collapse of the French attack when the their knights go charging in, but run into the Genoese line retreating. That causes chaos, and immediately that line stops, and is now like the point of the horse is the momentum. It's like that's what's going on, and now you don't have that anymore. And now at Crécy, of course, they were sitting ducks now for the longbow. Here, you're sitting ducks for these janissaries who are really excellent at taking you down off that horse because you're sitting on it, dismounting you, and then taking out your veins.
Absolutely. In fact, what they're doing is they're pulling them off the horse, and then they're immediately killing them. There's no, this is the first time that the Western Knights are facing a situation where there's no ransom. They think that's the other thing they've got in their quiver. Arrow, not an arrow, but they've got this notion of oh well, we can be ransomed. Basically, the Janissaries say, let's start killing them right, left, and center. And so the French and Burgundians and all the rest of do the thing that they're hoping will help. They surrender.
Yeah.
And then it can't have been too long in the battle because the infantry, Sigismund doesn't even have time to send in the infantry. At that point, some of the Wallachians, the Transylvanians, and the Teutonic Knights, they go in to help. And Sigismund turns around, loads his army onto boats, and sails down to Buda and starts making these fortification changes.
Yeah, this is Nicopolis, a huge battle, so fast, and decided so quickly. And the story of Nicopolis doesn't end there because what happens afterwards is quite something. Quite something. And this is again where, the numbers, we get into a question of numbers, but Nicopolis is most famous for a lot of people because of what happens after the battle.
Yeah. And then, so on usually in Western, there's kind of an unwritten rule. If you surrender, then you have to treat the prisoner of war well. And either then, once the battle's done, you can let them go if they're not worth anything, or you can ransom them. Very rarely is there no quarter given. Very rarely are they killed. Even in Crécy, where there was no quarter given, once the battle was over, they started to take more prisoners, because we know that. In this case, that there's maybe 6,000. That's the number that it seems to be. What is a lot of now modern historians will assign to how many cavalry and soldiers or knights that are captured at this point in the battle. Mm-hmm. And Bayezid, who sees this as a sign of cowardice, surrender on the battlefield, he has them give up all their weapons. Then he ties them in groups of 3 and gives it to the Janissaries to kill.
Yeah. It is a massive execution. Absolutely massive execution. And I mean, and most, we think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, we assume that most are by decapitation, but also a lot of just cutting off limbs and letting them bleed out.
I think probably just cutting throats and other things like that. They know, these they know how to meet death, and it still would have taken a long time.
And the future John the Fearless was recognized. So there was some pulling of people out. There was actually a French knight who I believe was in the Sultan's force, who had been a herald, and he was able to recognize certain people, and say like, don't kill that one. That one's actually, he really is worth some money.
Yeah.
And among those was John the Fearless.
And Bustigo and a few others. But listen, this is Johann Schildberger. So he's in this group. He's tied up.
He's
ready
there
for this. And he says, they took my companions and cut off their heads. And when it came to my turn, the king's son saw me and ordered that I should be left alive. And I was taken to the other boys, because none under 18 years of age were killed. And I was scarcely 16 years old. Then I saw the Lord Hanson Grief, who was Lord of Payerne, and 4 others bound with the same cord. When he saw the great revenge that was taking place, he cried with a loud voice and consoled the horse and foot soldiers who were standing there to die. Stand firm, he said, when our blood this day is spilt for the Christian faith, and we by God's help shall become the children of heaven. When he said this, he knelt and was beheaded together with his companions. Blood was spilled from morning until vespers. And when the king's counselors saw that so much blood was spilled and that it still did not stop, they rose and fell upon their knees before the king and entreated him for the sake of God that he would forget his rage, that he might not draw upon himself the vengeance of God, as enough blood was already spilled. He consented and ordered that they should stop and that the rest of the people should be brought together. And from them he took his share and left the rest to his people, who made them prisoners. And Schiltberger becomes a slave. That's what happened to these prisoners, except for the ones that are able to convince the Sultan that they can be ransomed. It's just a harrowing amount. I mean, what must have been a 16-year-old boy to have the Ottoman Turks, in his view, the Ottoman Turks get so fatigued of bloodshed.
Yeah. And going to the hour of vespers, that's evening prayers for those who don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it really is, this is literally all day in September. So it's a pretty long day. Astonishing. And, you know, like Boucicaut survives this, but Boucicaut was actually in line. John the Fearless and the other kind of immediate high-ranking guys who've been pulled out, Bayezid made them stand and watch all this. And when Boucicaut was about ready to get his turn, John the Fearless, I believe, falls to his knees before the Sultan and makes some kind of gesture of intertwining his fingers to sort of say, this is like my brother. This is like my brother. And so he's spared. But yeah, astonishing how many must have died. You know, we see various numbers of this. I think the lowest numbers I've seen are just in the few hundreds, but most are a few thousand.
Yeah.
That die, and many of those who are made captive end up dying because of the journey that they have to take. Back out, which is horrible. But yeah, a few of these guys do manage to convince them they're worth enough money.
Yeah.
300
from the Crusaders, Western Europe, returned to Western Europe is all.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Just unbelievable.
And it was, and this, you know, I've written about this, saying, you know, it will not be until Vienna in 1529 that the West will come again in aid against the Ottomans. So if you figure a century and 30 years, 32 years, 33 years, is the West will not try another crusade. This must have scared them a lot. And in fact, it says that in Boucicaut's Chronicles, you know, all our lords had solemn masses for the dead sung in chapels, for the good lords, knights and squires, and all the Christians who had died. But it may be well that we had more need of prayers on our behalf, since they, God willing, are saints in paradise.
The trauma of survival, right?
The trauma of survival, yeah. And it affects him. John the Fearless was affected for the rest of his life. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons why he will go against, go against the French on a number of different occasions. I mean, he'll even be responsible for killing his uncle, Louis of Orleans. There's a whole bunch of different things that he must have really traumatized. And Boucicaut's book is filled with this as well. I mean, in his chronicle, or his biography, chivalric biography, I guess, best way of putting it, you know, this is not something that they got over fast. Boucicaut will be around till Agincourt, where he loses again by having crazy charges of French knights into you know, lines that they had no business of doing. They're not successful.
Yeah, but I'm really glad, that we're able to talk about this question of trauma, because,
Yeah.
we both teach warfare. We both do this stuff, and there's so many people that think that means that like we like fighting or something, and it is absolutely the opposite. To know what this stuff is like, you don't want to have any part of this. You don't want anybody to have any part of this. And when you really look at these accounts by these guys, for all the bluster, you will often see these glimpses of how horrified they are,
Yeah.
and how horrible this is to their psyche to have seen and witnessed this. Um, again, they might have a lot of bluster, in part to sort of overcome that themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, unbelievable to imagine what something like Johann saw at that, under the age of 16, to witness thousands. I mean, after having witnessed the horror of the battle, which was, I mean, beyond anything we can hardly imagine, and then to witness the thousands of executions, and all of the blood, and to have seen all that and thought that was going to be you, and only at the last minute pulled aside. What does that do to your psyche?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awful.
Well, so Schildenberger's entire book, because he writes this after he's escaped slavery, but he's been an Ottoman slave and a Mongol slave for years. And this is what he starts with. It's interesting that this is the moment that sticks in his mind. This is the traumatic moment that sticks in his mind. And I think, it obviously does with the Ottomans too. If what Schildenberg says is right, and I think it is, I mean, there's no reason not to, that the Ottomans go to their Sultan and say, no, this is starting to traumatize us. All this bloodshed, this death is starting to traumatize us. I mean, I don't think they expected the Crusade army to surrender in the midst of battle like they did.
Yeah.
That they didn't know the traditions that the West had, where you could ask for quarter and be taken and have ransom paid later on. We do have an estimate of the ransom at 200,000 ducats that were paid. So several, bigger than anybody else's ransom. Well, it was ransom for the remaining soldiers, but bigger than the ransom of all except for John II, King of France. And amazing. And it was paid. It took a while. John will take another year before he gets back to Burgundy.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yikes.
This is one of the ones and Mike is right. I mean, we get traumatized by telling these stories. It's the same thing. I mean, I've not been in Nicopolis. I'd like to go sometime. But going around roads and knowing how many thousands are killed in roads, 35,000, first battle. The second battle we'll get to may have over 100,000, just on the one side, on the Ottoman side. And you recognize the amount of bloodshed that's what is this trying to accomplish? I mean, the Crusaders are trying to win back certain things. Sigismund wants to protect himself and his people, but there's a lot of death for that.
All for the glory. All for the glory.
Yeah, well, that's what they want. Nobody got well, it's kind of ironic that at the end of the day, what Poissart saying, oh, they're mocking Hungarian king. He wants the glory on the day. I mean, no, yeah, there wasn't any glory for anybody on the Crusader side.
And Bayezid doesn't last long for his part. So
no, Bayezid doesn't last long either. He knows what ignominy will feel like. He knows what he knows what defeat is as well in a few years.
Yeah. Yeah, less than a decade. He's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we don't know about this battle that you wish we knew? If we could dig something up or find something in a library, what would you wish it was, man?
I'd like to know the side of things from Bayezid. I mean, we have later accounts, but we don't know exactly. We don't have anything that's post Ankara, so Bayezid is not given the his due, I think, in a lot. I'd certainly like to have had an eyewitness account or a battle report or something from his side to say, what happened, what he was thinking about, and so forth. Of course, usually these things, when they were written by the sultans, the Ottoman sultans, it's all, for the glory of God, we did this and we won. For the glory of God, we won. So we don't get the in-depth look. I think we get far more in-depth look when in the accounts of this battle strategic session that is held on the side of the Crusaders. I'd like to know what was thought about on the Ottoman side. What about yourself?
I wish we had an account from Jacques de Helly, which is the knight who was recognized as having worked with Murad, I think it was. And so the Sultan said, you're in charge of identifying who's worth saving, who died. He's put in that role that Collins of Beaumont was put in, essentially.
Yeah.
At Crécy, and we have Collins's account. It's such an extraordinary account, and here we know that we know the name of the guy who's doing this same role of identifying people, and as far as I know, we only know that he did this. We don't have his perspective on that experience,
right? And
to be in that position in which he's trying to save who he can save. Identify who he can identify, and is then charged by Bayezid afterwards. He's the one that has to go to the King of France and the Duke of Burgundy. He has to go back and tell them all what happened. It's his job. So not only does he have to go through the horror on the field and in the aftermath, but then he's the one that has to go and kneel before the king, I think on Christmas Day. He has to go and say, here's what happened, and here's the roll of the dead, which is a huge number of nobles, and begin the mourning, and to have that, to have gone through that, again, the sort of on a trauma perspective. I wish I had his account.
Yeah, it would be amazing to have just to have the roll of the dead, just to know what he was presenting, and have even a record from the Burgundian court saying that he came and all. I think this the little bit that I read from the Marshal Boucicault's chivalric biography it indicates this, and the trauma. I mean, just it survives. So there's a lot. Philippe de Mézières, who is a French writer who's kind of spoken about peace, he writes a long letter, which he calls the lamentable and tragic story of what happened at Nicopolis. And he doesn't have, it has very little to talk about the Battle of Nicopolis. It's all talking about the grieving afterwards, brought about by the losses of the men and, losses of honor. It's going to be a long time. It's even a long time before the French and the English get back to fighting again.
Yeah, I mean this battle is it's a big one. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed as much as you can enjoy talking about something so horrific. Enjoyed hearing us talk about this. They are gonna lock us out of the bar pretty soon. About out of wild turkey. So again, if you've got questions, we'll try to answer them. So send those in. And the easiest way to do that is the easiest way to support us, other than buying our books, which is to go to patreon.com/medievalists, and there you'll see ways to comment and drop us a line, drop us some questions. we're coming up on our Q&A. Really looking forward to seeing what people want to know. And God, if anybody out there knows, like in some archive, where Jacques de Helly's account of Nicopolis is, please send it to me.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Take care out there. Bye-bye.
Bye.